Well, I thought I'd tell you a couple of stories. First one is about these two boys. Now, they're known around town for causing trouble. Two brothers. And one day the pastor of their church said, I want to talk to those boys. So we called them into his office. And the one boy sat in the pastor's office, the other went in the outer office. Now he looked at this boy and he says, where's Jesus? Well, of course, the correct answer is Jesus lives in my heart. But this boy just sat there and looked at him. Finally, the pastor gave up and says, you can leave, send your brother in. So he goes and talks to his brother and he says, Jesus is missing and they think we took him. My name is Pastor Jim Hoggett, Coeur d'Alene Open Bible, and I'm here in Coeur d'Alene Homes, where the women are all good looking, the men are intelligent, the staff is outstanding, and the guest singer, she's wonderful. Yeah. Ever since I was a little kid, my mom used to tell me this story about these Indians. Now, a lot of Indians were named by their parents by the first thing that mom saw after she gave birth to that child. So some would be flying eagle or white dove. Well, mom looked up and there was a rock slide and she saw falling rocks. So this little boy's name became Falling Rocks. And when he got older, he left the village and never came back, and they looked for him for years and years. In fact, they're still looking for him. Even as you drive in the highways, go up into the mountains, and you'll still see signs that says, watch for falling rocks. This story came from the eastern seaboard, and it was Mi'kmaq Indians. And it's a story they actually used to tell hundreds of years ago. It's called the Indian Cinderella. And it's amazing to me because it was about the same time that the Europeans were telling a story very much like it on the other side of the water, but there was no connection between the two. The story goes like this, that in every little village of Indians, every little squaw would dream of the day that she would grow up to marry a brave. Now, there were two kinds of braves that were really important for the Indian survival. The first one was a hunter, because he could bring them food. The next was a warrior, because he would protect them against their enemy. In this particular village, there was a boy who was good at both. He was a good hunter and he was a good warrior. His name was the Wind. And he lived in a teepee at the edge of the village with his sister. Now, the thing that made the Wind such a good hunter is that he can make himself just a mighty wind and go over the tops of trees and the hills and find where the buffalo are. And the thing that made him such a good warrior is that he can make himself into a whisper of a wind and go inside the teepees of his enemies and find out what their battle plan is. Well, the legend said that every little girl could try for the hand of the Wind in marriage, but she had to pass the test. Now, there was in this village 3 sisters. One of them was beautiful on the outside and on the inside. The other 2 were not only ugly, they had horrible personalities. And so one of them said, I want to fight with my sister. So she held her down and she fought with her, and she took her brand new buckskin clothes and she cut him up and made him into rags. And this girl was so pure and so kind, she forgave him. And one day the 2 girls, they ganged up on each other against this very nice girl, and they took knives and rocks and they cut her face. And from then on she was known as Scareface. But Scareface was so nice and pure and kind, she forgave him. And one day they caught her again, and they cut off all of her long, silky black hair, which was a shame for an Indian woman. And she was so kind and so gentle, she forgave him. One day, the wicked sisters decided they wanted to try for the hand of the Wind in marriage. So they were outside the teepee of the Wind, and they were fighting back and forth. I want to go first. No, I want to go first. And the sister came out and says, can I help you? He says, we want to do the test. She said, well, the legend said that anybody can. So she took him to the edge of a large valley. One by one, they went to the edge, and she said, the test is this. Look across this valley and tell me if you see my brother the wind. If you see him, you can marry him. Well, the first one looked out, and she says, oh, I do, I see him, there he is. He says, if you see my brother, with what does he draw his sleigh? And she said, oh, with a leather strap. She says, you're a wicked girl, you do not see my brother, and she banned her from the village. The second girl came. He says, do you see my brother the wind? She says, oh, yes, I do. There he is, I see him. He says, well, if you see my brother the wind, with what does he draw his sleigh? And she says, with a bamboo rod. She said, you're a wicked girl, you lie, you do not see my brother. She banned her from the village. Well, sometime later, Scareface decided she wanted to try for the hand of the wind in marriage. And very quietly, she went and sat outside the teepee until eventually the wind's sister recognized her and says, can I help you, Scareface? She said, I want to do the test. So she took her to the very same hill where she looked over this valley. She says, do you see my brother the wind? If you see my brother, you can have his hand in marriage. And she looked across, and she looked across, and she says, oh, I want to so bad. And she broke into tears, and she said, the truth is, I do not see him. I do not see him. And just because she had such a pure heart, the wind made himself visible to her. She saw the wind, which means she gets to marry the wind. The sister took her back to the wind's teepee and gave her some brand new buckskin clothes and washed her face with some special water. And her face turned out with no scars, just like a baby's face. It was beautiful. And every time she brushed her with a brush, the brush made the hair grow longer and longer till it was long and silkier than ever before. And she married the wind. Oh, and those other two sisters, the wind punished them. He turned them into aspen trees. And that is why to this day, when the wind passes an aspen tree, it quakes in fear. Thank you. We'll pick this up next week.